In the beginning, someone talks about how the world works. The world in this story works differently than ours. People can use science to stay young until they're 25 years old, but then they can't stay alive for much longer. They have to use their time like money, trading it for things they need to survive. If they run out of time, they die. Will Salas is a young man who lives in a poor neighborhood called Dayton in the southwest of the United States. He doesn't have a lot of money and lives day to day, sharing his time with his mother Rachel, who is 50 but still looks young. Rachel works in a factory and has saved up some time to give Will a break. They plan to celebrate when she comes back. In this world, everyone has a glowing green clock on their arm that shows how much time they have left. Will is a kind person and gives some of his time to a young girl who is begging. On the way to work he buys a coffee. The price has just gone up. Walking to work they see dead bodies in the streets. Will works in a metal stamping plant, making shiny cassettes. When Will finishes work, he realizes that he's earned less money than before because the amount he needs to produce has gone up. He goes to a bar and meets his friend Borel there. At the bar, a man with a lot of time on his clock is buying drinks for everyone and showing off his arm, which says he has over 116 years left. Will thinks the man doesn't belong in their poor neighborhood and worries that he's drawing too much attention to himself. As expected, a gang called the Minutemen arrives at the bar with guns. They want to take the man's time by force. The leader of the gang, Fortis, is actually 75 years old. When the Minutemen show up at the bar, Borel and the other people there run away, but Will stays to help the man with a lot of time escape. They run away from the gang and find an old building to hide in. The man's name is Henry Hamilton, and he explains to Will that time is used like money in this world. The system was put in place to control the population after anti-aging technology was developed, but inflation and low wages were used to keep people from living too long. In this world, the currency system meant that wealthy people could live much longer than poor people, and some of them even became immortal. Henry, however, is tired of living for so long. Will is upset that the rich get to live so long while the poor die early, and he tells Henry he doesn't want his time. Will doesn't want to leave Henry alone, so he offers to stay with him until the morning. At dawn, he gives his remaining time to Will while he's sleeping. When Will wakes up, he's alone and has been given 116 years of time from Henry. There's a message that tells him not to waste it. From a window, Will sees Henry sitting on the edge of a bridge, and he realizes that Henry plans to kill himself. Will tries to stop him, but he's too late, and Henry falls into the water. Will sees that cameras are watching him and runs away. Will meets up with Borel and his family, and shows them the 116 years of time he received. Will gives Borel a decade of his time to thank him for being his friend. However, Borel warns him that staying in Dayton with that much time could be dangerous. Will wants to take his mother to New Greenwich. Rachel goes to an ATM to pay off a 2-day loan, but when she tries to take the bus home, she finds out that the fare has gone up and she only has 90 minutes left on her clock. She panics and starts running. Will sees his mother in distress and runs towards her. They meet halfway, but it is too late as Rachel dies in her son's arms. Later, Will orders a fancy car to take him to a richer area called New Greenwich. He has to pay more money at each toll booth he passes through on his way to the city center, which is modern and fancy but doesn't have many people around. Will gets dressed up and goes to a fancy restaurant where a woman notices him. The waitress tells him to act like the rich people there and recommends a nearby casino. After Henry's body is found, the timekeepers, who are like the police, find footage of Will on the street cameras. Raymond Leon watches the footage and recognizes Will's name. His colleagues ask him if he knows Will and if he has a criminal record. Raymond tells them that he knows a different Will Salas, but not the current one. The timekeepers start searching for Will Salas. At a fancy casino, Will wears a fancy suit and meets Philip Weiss, who is one of the richest people in the world. Will bets a lot of his time in a poker game and wins, now having more than 1,000 years. Philip is impressed, and so is his daughter Sylvia, who he met earlier at the restaurant. Philip invites Will to his mansion for a party, and to see Sylvia again. Will agrees to go and prepares by buying a Jaguar E-Type to drive to the Weiss mansion on the coast. When he arrives, Philip reintroduces him to Sylvia, as well as his wife Michelle and mother-in-law. They all look the same age because of their wealth. Will convinces Sylvia to have some fun, and they go skinny dipping in the ocean. Sylvia confesses that she wishes she could do crazy things more often, but her father had always restricted her. When Philip comes looking for her, they dress up again. However, the timekeepers appear and confront Will. Raymond decides to take away the 1,000 years as he doesn't believe his story. Raymond mentions that he knew Will's father, and walks away. Will fights against the other timekeepers and then takes Sylvia hostage, running away from the mansion. Raymond decides to pursue Will and Sylvia relentlessly, even putting himself in danger. Will and Sylvia get into a car chase and ultimately manage to lose Raymond, escaping back to the country. However, Sylvia begs Will to let her go. When Will and Sylvia go back to Dayton, their car is deliberately damaged by the Minutemen. Both of them get knocked out and the Minutemen find out that Will has very little time left on his clock, which is worthless to them. However, Sylvia has a decade left, which they take instead. Sylvia becomes scared when the Minutemen take her time and leave her with only a little left. Will tries to comfort her by saying that many people live with little time. They go to find Borel for help, but sadly discover that he had died from excessive drinking and left his wife and child behind. Will sells Sylvia's diamond earrings to get more time, but he realizes that it won't be enough to keep them safe. He decides to call Philip and ask for a ransom of 1,000 years to release Sylvia. Raymond overhears the conversation and cautions Will against repeating his father's mistake. Will discovers that his father was involved in a much more severe crime than just stealing time. Raymond figures out where Will was hiding and promises Weiss that he'll bring his daughter back safely. When he reaches Will's apartment, Raymond reveals that his father was a skilled, arm wrestler, who had a strategy to win matches. He demonstrates that the trick was to let the opponent win initially, allowing them to become overconfident and distracted, and then at the last few seconds, he could flip their arm and turn the match around. The day after the ransom was due, Will tells Sylvia that her father may have been stopped from paying it by the timekeepers. But Sylvia thinks this means her father doesn't care about her. Even so, Will decides to let her go and gives her a gun to protect herself since they are in a dangerous area. They kiss, and just as Sylvia is about to call her family, Raymond shows up and tries to shoot Will. Sylvia shoots Raymond instead out of fear. Will takes some of Raymond's time, but he doesn't have much since timekeepers carry only a little time to avoid being targeted. Will takes Raymond's car and transfers 4 hours of his own time to him before leaving him alone in the ghetto. Sylvia realizes that using a police car would draw too much attention, so they decide to steal another car. They end up robbing a limo and its passenger, a woman dressed like a prostitute. They find out that they are both wanted by the authorities, with a reward of 10 years for anyone who captures them. Philip is looking at a big map of the world that has different colored lights and numbers on it. He tells his business partners that his daughter won't cause the economy to fail. Raymond, who was hurt, managed to leave the poor area. Along the way, people kept saying mean things to him. Eventually, he meets Philip. Weiss tries to pay Raymond to save his daughter, but Raymond tells him that Sylvia did something wrong and the police will try to catch her. If Philip tries to help Sylvia, he will also get in trouble with the police. Will teaches Sylvia how to shoot a gun. She offers to help him get more time. Will and Sylvia drive a strong car through a window of Weiss Bank and take many cassettes with time. They ask the people watching to take what they want too. Weiss sees a news report about the theft. His wife scolds him for making things hard for people. In a motel, the two become closer but feel that something is not right. They barely escape from Ray and his group. Ray chases them on rooftops and shoots at them, not wanting to let them go. However, they are able to give money to a bus driver and run away. They go to a cheap hotel and rent the entire building for privacy. Fortis and his group harass regular people until one of them confesses to seeing the two people they are looking for. In the hotel room, the young couple talk about their experience of the change that happens when they turn 25 and the green numbers start counting down. Fortis shows up and tells them that not only the rich and timekeepers are controlling the ordinary people, but also the Minutemen are allowed to do so as long as they don't attack the rich. Fortis challenges Will to a fight where they lock arms and fight until one of them dies. While they are fighting, Will's time runs out quickly. However, Will uses a trick to turn the countdown timer backwards and is able to grab a gun from his boot. He kills Fortis's henchman, and Fortis's countdown timer runs out. Will feels disappointed and thinks that it will take a very long time to change the system. Sylvia suggests that she knows where they can find that much time. Sylvia goes back to her house and pretends to surrender herself to her father. This distracts him and his many guards, allowing Will to sneak up on him. Will holds Weiss at gunpoint and they take him to his office. They open a big safe and find a cassette tape with 1,000,000 years on it. Philip tries to argue that it's always better for someone to live forever, even if it means someone else has to die. However, the two people who ran away are not convinced. They lock Philip in his office and return to Dayton. They keep the timekeepers occupied while they pass the cassette tape with 1,000,000 years to Maya, the young girl. Raymond chases Will and Sylvia to a faraway place as they are heading towards Livingstone, the next town. They all are running out of time. Will realizes that Ray is from Dayton and an honest policeman who is just doing his job. However, Ray's countdown timer runs out and he dies in front of them because the timekeepers forgot to pay him. With very little time left, Will sees a police car in the distance. He runs towards it and quickly transfers the timekeepers per diem from their device to himself. Then he runs back to Sylvia and barely manages to give her some time, saving her life. They only have enough time to live for one day. The people from Dayton stop working and start marching towards New Greenwich. The timekeepers watch the news and decide that their job is done. Will and Sylvia have a reward of 100 years on their heads. They stop in front of a big building and pull out their guns to commit their biggest heist.